And hello, ladies. Okay.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome to Small Business Saturday with Sharea and
Sherry.
yes, we are at it again. You guys really should be behind the scenes with us. We have so much fun. Like just
Yes.
something so simple. But anyway, um, today we're talking budget, which is the land of Sharia. Because I absolutely feel like to have a successful business, you have to have actual foundation that really speaks to a real budget. And so we're going to give you 3 points around budgeting. Number one being expenses versus revenue, kind of just understanding those differences, operating on your level, and then grow as you go is our last.
Yes.
And so I'm going to start us off with expenses versus revenue. And I'm really going to talk about it in three different ways. Expenses being cash out. That's how simple it is, right? And revenue being cash in. So revenue, you can also hear the word income. You might hear revenue, services and products, things that will bring in money to your business. And so those two items are going to be based off of what are your essentials, your non-essentials, and then what can you do later. And so really when I think about a budget from jump, because I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, your essentials are the things and items that you cannot do without to run your business, right? What can't, like if I have to run a business, I need the internet to do online services, right? If I'm going to do coaching and life coaching and I'm doing virtual appointments and I have no internet, probably can't do my job. So that's an expense that I am going to have to do as an essential. Another essential might be something as simple for a business license, right? So as a therapist, it's funny enough, today my license renewal came in for the state of New Jersey. And so every 2 years, we have to do certain things to maintain our license. That's an essential. So that means that I have to be able to budget for that item every year because I have to do CEUs to be able to get to that 2-year mark, right? And so every year I have to budget how many and how much am I willing to spend on these CEUs to make sure that I can keep my license. So that's an example of an essential. Non-essential items are things that I can create options for, but I still kind of need them, right? So I have a logo that I may want, but for now I'm going to use my name and use a fancy color behind it, right? So that's a non-essential, but it's kind of an essential, right? So, because then the things that are later is a little different, right? So how can I do it in a way that's the most affordable? How can I do this item in a way that it actually doesn't impact my budget consistently, right? So for example, the license might impact my budget every 6 months, but the non-essential logo, I create it once and I never have to do anything else again on it, right? So I didn't have to do anything after paying maybe $10 to get the color I like or something that I wanted from it, right? So being able to know what's essential, what's non-essential, and then lastly, what can wait for later. And as I say that one, I'm going to say if Sherry doesn't have anything else, we're going to move to the next one, which is operating on your level, right? So when we talk about later, what can you save until you have enough revenue coming in to be able to impact the essential price that you can afford and or non-essential price that you can invest?
Yeah, so with operating on your level, like there's so many different pathways to success, and you don't have to unnecessarily go through debt in order to be successful. So for instance, like if you're just starting out and you have a similar business to someone who has an operating budget of $1.5 million, so they have, with their revenue, let's say they have, at least 1.5 million coming in. Their expenses may be around $700,000. And so now they're making a profit of about $300,000. So when you look at their marketing, they may be spending $5,000, $10,000 a year on marketing. If you're just starting out and your revenue you have coming in is just $1,000, why are you going to go into debt trying to spend $10,000 on marketing, trying to look like someone else? So that's what we mean with operating on your level, is that you can still push out quality content. You can still have a great business and start out with spending the amount of money that matches the revenue that's coming in. And so that may even mean, like Sharea was saying with her logo, hey, instead of paying for a logo right now, let me just use my name with a color behind it, is that you look at creative or innovative ways that you can still do the things that you would like to do, but in a way that sets up a sound foundation. Because if you have poor management of your budget now and you have just $1,000 a year coming in, when you get that $1.5 million, you're now going to have a foundation of unsound financial decisions. And so even though you have all this hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in revenue, you're not managing it well because you're trying to, again, look like someone else who has a much bigger budget than you are, instead of really maximizing what you have and being creative and innovative. And so just operating on your level just means being honest about where you are, focusing on your content and the quality of what you're doing. And then as you continue to grow, then you go from there.
Right. So then that brings us to number 3, which is grow as you go. Right. And so that's tongue tied for me, but what that basically means is as you grow, then you can start to do more investing based off of your revenue and the amount coming in. So if you started off with one client and you have one client consistently, then you're not able to do 18 different things, but now you have 6 clients, and those 6 clients bring in enough revenue for you to actually now get an actual designer to create a logo, right? And so now I no longer have to just use my name with the color behind it, but I can actually get I can invest in someone to pay for an actual designed logo, because it will impact my branding moving forward, right? So you definitely still want to make sure that it's really an essential. But at the end of the day, how I do that is waiting until I grow. So I believe that you can start now with what you have and then go. And as you grow, you start to do different types of things. And I personally did it that way when it came to my business, because I did not want any investors. And so for me, one of the main things for starting my business was that I needed to make sure that before I hired employees, before I went and got a secondary office, before I went and did any of those things, that I had enough of savings in the bank so that if anything were to happen, for employees specifically, and even now, if we think about the crisis that our country has gone through related to economy, all of those reasons, I needed to make sure that I have a certain amount saved before I could move up to growing to have employees or staff, right? So I might have had a contractor, but the contractor's rates are totally different. They are paid for fee for service, which means that totally is different than a staff person who I have to pay for, have to have an investment, right? So growing as you go is all about saying, now that I've reached a certain amount of revenue, what more can I do to grow the business so that I can have an increased amount of revenue to continue to grow, right? Because if you're growing, here's the other thing. I've seen people that I've worked with, and it frustrates me so deeply, purchase or even rent places or buildings before they actually had enough revenue coming in. So enough people provide the services to, for them to actually afford the property or the building that they were going to be renting. So when I came on by myself, I had one office, and that office had a training space, but the budget had to be able to be under what I can afford based off of the revenue I had with my current clients. It was not based off of future trainings. It wasn't based off of 10 clients down the road. It was based off of, with these exact number of clients that I have at this moment, can I afford this place and still pay my rent and pay my personal self, right? Can I still have my lifestyle with this current rent amount? After that, after the answer being yes, then I start to save. I start to save, and then a year, 2, for me, I waited 3 because that's just the type of person I am related to security and money, right? And so I waited 3 years before I even thought about looking at a secondary office. And then even then, it took me another 6 to 7 months to actually say yes, right? And so being able to make sure that you grow after you actually have a consistent revenue that indicates that it's time that you can make an investment so that you can make more money, right? So you should only be moving towards building things that could help you to make more revenue, to be able to provide the service or products or things that you're doing in a way that says, I'm growing, but I'm also still investing. I'm also still making money, and I'm not putting myself at risk. Because here's the thing about not budgeting. and I think this is true about real life too, not just business. When we don't budget, we are more likely to go outside of the realms of what we can afford, because money is connected to emotions for many of us. And as a result, sometimes pleasure and immediate gratification will win out over sensible reality check based decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, and just know, like, just it's okay to start out where you are.
Yeah.
It's only, and because there's nothing wrong with desiring to do the big and awesome and impactful things. It's just that you make a plan. Yeah, it's just like you make a plan to get there. So just because you can't do it right now, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It doesn't make, again, your business less valid. It doesn't water down your expertise and what you have to offer. It's just all about being honest about where you are and making a plan to where you want to go. And then as you grow, as you start to increase the revenue that you're bringing in, you're able to do more.
And don't compare yourself to others people's growth. Everyone's process is totally different. I've seen people start their private practice and they within a year are starting to have on news people and all those things. And I'm like, that's so awesome. That wasn't the journey for me to feel secure based off of my own lived experience with money. And so I need to make sure that my decisions are going to be based off of what is good for me. And I'm glad that other people could do it differently, but that works for them. It doesn't have to work for you. So make sure that you plan in a way that also acknowledges your full story, not just that you're competing with someone else to show them that your business or your product or something is better or just like everybody else's. Like, you don't have to do that. No. Your audience is your audience.
Yeah, your content is better over competition. Yeah, because you can get so focused on competing and being caught up in a competition that you have poor content and you're going to lose the competition. Yeah. So just focus on content.
Yeah, and being you. Like, yeah. So that said, mind your money, people. All right, be well.
Bye.